Mara Lee had always thought that working on Aegis 9, the massive orbital station circling the outer edge of the Sol system, would be routine. Years of training, long shifts, and countless simulations had led her to believe that she could handle anything that came her way. Yet, as she stared at her console that morning, a flicker of unease crawled up her spine. Something was off. The station hummed steadily around her, the familiar vibration of engines and life support systems pulsing through the floor panels. Crew members moved along the corridors, some heading to engineering, others to the observation decks to catch a view of the stars. Everything looked normal, or at least, everything she could see. "Orion," she said softly, speaking to the AI assistant that accompanied every technician on the station. "Run a full scan of the outer hull, sectors 12 through 16. The AI responded instantly, its calm, neutral voice filling the small maintenance bay. "Scan initiated, Mara. All systems nominal, except minor fluctuations in the structural integrity monitors. Nothing critical." Mara frowned. "Minor fluctuations?" she repeated, leaning closer to the display. The readings flickered, tiny spikes appearing and disappearing faster than the system could process. "Orion, double-check the visual feed. I want to see the exact sectors myself." The AI complied, and holographic displays popped up in the air around her. The vast outer hull stretched before her in blue-white light. Nothing. No cracks, no breaches, no anomalies. Yet the alerts kept spiking, subtle enough that anyone walking past might not notice them. But Mara noticed. Her hand hovered over the console, hesitation building. She felt her heart beat faster, the adrenaline creeping into her veins. She had never doubted herself before, not like this. I don't see anything. I swear," she muttered, almost to herself. Just then, the voice of Commander Rael cut through the bay, cold and firm. "Mara, report," he said, appearing on the console's communication screen. His sharp features and stern eyes always seemed to pierce through any hesitation. "Something's triggered the outer hull sensors. I need to know exactly what you're seeing." Mara swallowed hard. "Sir, the sensors are picking up fluctuations in sectors 12 to 16, but visually, I don't see anything. The hull looks intact." There was silence for a moment. Then Commander Rail's voice returned, steady, unwavering. "You must take responsibility for this." Mara blinked. Responsibility. That word hit, harder than the alarms blaring across the station. In that moment, she understood exactly what it meant. It didn't matter whether she could see it or not. If something went wrong, lives could be lost, and she would be accountable. Her stomach twisted. "What am I missing?" she wondered. "Is it a sensor error? Or something else?" "Understood, sir," she said, straightening her shoulders. "I'll investigate immediately." Note: she activated a remote drone from the console, sending it toward the outer hull to get a closer look. The tiny machine whirred through the air, its lights reflecting off the hull as it scanned every inch. Mara's eyes tracked every movement, every flicker of data. The readings continued to spike in the same sectors, but the drone's camera showed nothing unusual. Hours passed, and Mara felt the weight of the entire station pressing down on her. Every technician had their assigned duties, yet somehow, she was the only one responsible for confirming the safety of sectors 12 through 16. Crew members came and went, some glancing at the alarms, some asking her questions, but none could offer answers. "Maybe it's nothing," she told herself quietly. "Maybe the system is just being overly sensitive." But deep down, she knew better. Something in the readings didn't feel like a simple glitch. The spikes weren't random. They seemed to follow a pattern, almost like a pulse. Yet nothing on the visual feeds, nothing on the drones, gave her a hint of what it could be. Commander Rael appeared again, this time in person. He stepped into the bay, his boots clicking against the metal floor. Mara could feel the tension radiating off him, a constant reminder that mistakes weren't tolerated on Aegis 9. "Mara," he said, his voice low but intense. "If there's even a chance that the hull is compromised, we need action. Not speculation. Action." "I know, sir," Mara replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm running every scan, every possible diagnostic. I don't see anything with my eyes, but the system is still reporting anomalies." Rael studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Good. Keep me updated. But remember, the station, and everyone on it, depends on your judgment. You have the responsibility now. Don't let it go." As he left, Mara felt the full weight of the station's hum around her. Every light, every vibration, every small noise reminded her that she was alone in this investigation. She turned back to the console, determined to find the source of the anomaly. Hours melted into the quiet rhythm of the station. Mara pored over sensor data, recalibrated equipment, and cross-checked the readings with Orion's predictions. Every time she thought she had found a lead, it disappeared. Every fluctuation, every spike, every unusual pulse seemed to vanish as soon as she tried to observe it directly. It was frustrating, it was maddening, and it was terrifying. At one point, she stepped back from the console, rubbing her eyes. The station's vast expanse stretched beyond the window, stars glimmering faintly in the distance. The beauty of space usually calmed her, but today, it only made her feel smaller, more insignificant. If something is out there, if it's real, and I can't see it, what happens next? Orion's voice broke the silence. "Mara, I suggest a direct visual scan from the external maintenance corridor. The drone feeds may not capture subtle hull anomalies. I can guide you through the procedure." Mara nodded, grateful for the AI's guidance but anxious about what she might find. She activated the external corridor access, sealing herself in a small, pressurized suit. Every step toward the outer hatch made her heart pound. The station's metal walls gleamed under the soft glow of the corridor lights, and she felt the familiar mixture of fear and excitement that always came with stepping into the unknown. The hatch cycled open with a hiss, and Mara floated out into the vastness of the station's exterior. The vacuum of space stretched around her, the distant stars twinkling like cold, indifferent eyes. Her suit's lights illuminated the hull, and she began the slow, meticulous inspection of sectors 12 through 16. Hours of drifting passed. She ran her hands along the hull, scanned with the suit's sensors, and double-checked every panel. Nothing. Not a scratch, not a crack, not the faintest hint of a breach. And yet, every few minutes, her console back inside the station recorded another spike, another alert. Frustration bubbled inside her. She returned to the hatch, re-entered the station, and removed her helmet, taking a deep breath. "I don't understand," she muttered. "There's nothing there. Nothing at all." Orion's voice was calm, almost comforting. "Mara, some anomalies are beyond immediate visual detection. The system is detecting fluctuations in quantum field interactions with the hull. This may indicate an event that is not physically visible." Mara groaned softly. Quantum fluctuations? That was far beyond her immediate understanding. And yet, she couldn't ignore it. "Responsibility," Commander Rael had said. "I must act. I cannot ignore this." As she sat at her console, analyzing the data again, Mara realized something. Whether she could see the anomaly or not, whether anyone else believed it or not, she had the power to act, to investigate, to understand, and maybe, just maybe, to prevent a disaster before it even happened. The hum of the station continued, steady and unrelenting. Mara's eyes focused on the flickering data streams. Somewhere in the vast, silent expanse of space, something, was waiting, and she had to find it before it found them. Mara whispered to herself, almost as if making a promise. I don't see anything, but I won't let it go. Not until I know the truth. And with that, she began the long, painstaking work of uncovering the invisible threat that no one else could see. The hours that followed were long and exhausting for Mara Lee. Every system, every sensor, every piece of data she could find pointed to something unusual. Outside sectors, 12 through 16. Yet, when she looked at the hull with her own eyes, everything seemed perfectly normal. The tension inside her chest was constant, like the low vibration of the station itself. She felt as if she were walking a tightrope, balancing between doubt and responsibility. Orion, her AI assistant, never left her side. Its calm voice echoed through the maintenance bay. Mara, the fluctuations are persistent. I recommend initiating a cross-system diagnostic. We may need to observe multiple dimensions of the hull simultaneously to identify the source. Mara nodded, even though she had already been doing exactly that for hours. I know, Orion. But if this is beyond normal sensors, maybe it's something more unusual. Something the system wasn't designed to detect. The thought made her stomach tighten. Unusual? In space? That could mean anything. She shook her head and focused on her console, pulling up readings from all over the station, comparing them to the sectors in question. The numbers formed strange, almost rhythmic spikes, rising and falling like a heartbeat. Look at this, she said aloud, pointing to the holographic display. The pulses weren't random. It's almost like someone or something is moving along the hull. But nothing is visible. Nothing at all. Orion's tone shifted slightly, mimicking curiosity. Interesting observation. Shall I attempt to correlate these pulses with the station's energy fields? Do it, Mara said, biting her lip. Within moments, Orion overlaid the energy maps with the anomaly readings. The results made Mara's eyebrows shoot up. The spikes were not mechanical, not electromagnetic, not even structural. They were organic, in a way, subtle and intelligent, like a creature observing the station without touching it. Mara leaned back, her mind racing. Organic? She whispered. Are you saying it could be alive? Orion responded carefully. Possibly. The system is detecting behavior consistent with self-directed patterns. However, we cannot confirm life as we know it. Mara swallowed hard. Alive, invisible, and somehow intelligent. Her heart pounded. Orion, if this is alive, what do we do? Do we alert Commander Rael? The AI paused for a fraction of a second. Alerting the commander is advisable. However, humans can offer insight and intuition beyond the limits of machine logic. Your judgment is essential. Mara took a deep breath and nodded. She knew she could not run away from this. Responsibility was hers. Even if the anomaly defied explanation, she had to face it. She activated the station's auxiliary sensors, a set of experimental instruments designed for extreme space conditions. They had higher resolution than the standard sensors and could detect minute disturbances in matter and energy. Mara aligned the instruments with the affected sectors, adjusting every parameter manually. The lights on the console blinked in complex sequences, scanning, calculating, and cross-referencing. Hours passed. Nothing tangible appeared, but the spikes continued, faint but persistent. It was almost like the anomaly was aware of her efforts, hiding whenever she looked directly, revealing itself only in its own way. Frustrated, Mara leaned back in her chair. Orion, this isn't just a problem with the station. This is something completely new. Something we weren't prepared for. Correct, Orion replied. Human experience and intuition may provide an advantage here. I suggest a direct approach. Correct. Mara hesitated. The thought of leaving the safety of the bay to investigate closer made her stomach twist. But Orion was right. If she stayed behind, all she could do was watch the data. She needed to see for herself, even if it was impossible to see with ordinary eyes. She made her decision. She suited up again, donning her pressurized suit and helmet. The hatch hissed open, welcoming her into the cold, silent expanse of the station's exterior. Floating in zero gravity, tethered only by a thin cable, Mara felt the full weight of the station and the cosmos pressing around her. Stars shimmered in the distance, indifferent and vast. She moved slowly along the hull, eyes scanning, sensors active, hands gliding over metal panels. The anomaly had no visible form, yet she could feel its presence in the subtle fluctuations of her suit's instruments. Every time she paused, the sensors spiked. Every time she approached, the spikes shifted, almost like the anomaly was aware of her movements. "This is incredible," she whispered. "I can feel it. I can feel it moving, but I can't see it." Orion's voice responded softly through her helmet. "Observation suggests intelligence. The pattern of movement is deliberate, not random. Mara, you may be dealing with a sentient entity." The word sentient made her heart race faster. Alive, intelligent, invisible, and now sentient. What could it want? And what would happen if she made a mistake? Mara paused, looking out into the infinite darkness of space. She reminded herself of Commander Rael's words, "You must take responsibility." She was not just observing, she was protecting the station and everyone aboard. Fear had no place here, not if she wanted to succeed. She decided on a new approach. Instead of searching blindly, she would try to communicate, or at least, to signal the anomaly in a way it could understand. She adjusted her suit's lighting system to pulse in rhythmic patterns, designed to mimic the anomaly's own signals. Small bursts of sound waves echoed in the hull, subtle enough not to interfere with the station's operation. At first, there was no response. Mara's chest tightened. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe I'm just talking to empty space. Then, a shift. The spikes in her instruments changed pattern. They mirrored the pulses she was sending, almost as if the anomaly was responding. Learning. Her heart leapt. "It's reacting," she said aloud, her voice trembling. "Orion, it's reacting." "Observation confirmed," Orion replied. "The entity is adapting to your signals. It may be attempting communication." Mara's mind raced. If this was truly a sentient entity, it could be more than just a threat or anomaly. It could be an opportunity, an entirely new form of life. But the stakes were enormous. One wrong move could trigger a disaster, destabilizing the hull or alerting the entity to take defensive action. She focused, steadying her breathing. Every pulse, every flash of light, every vibration of the hull became a conversation. Slowly, the anomaly's behavior became predictable. It followed her signals, mirrored them, even paused when she paused. Mara realized that, somehow, she had established contact. Hours passed in what felt like minutes. Mara floated, sending signals, adjusting rhythms, observing patterns, learning, and in that endless blackness, she felt a connection not just with the anomaly, but with the vast unknown itself. Humans had always explored the stars, but rarely had they met something truly alien, something alive, and capable of thought beyond their understanding. Finally, she retreated to the hatch, heart pounding, body trembling from exhaustion. She re-entered the station, removing her helmet and taking deep, shuddering breaths. Orion immediately began analyzing the data she had collected. Analysis suggests a response pattern consistent with intelligent behavior, the AI stated. Further observation and careful interaction are recommended. Mara slumped into the nearest chair, her mind racing. She knew Commander Rael would want a full report, but she also knew that no one else could fully understand what she had experienced. The anomaly was real, alive, and possibly intelligent, and she was the first human to make contact. And yet, responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders. The station depended on her. The crew depended on her. And now, the anomaly depended on her decisions. One mistake, one misstep, could be catastrophic. Mara whispered to herself, a mixture of fear and determination. I have to understand it. I have to get it right. No one else can do this for me. The hum of the station continued around her, steady and indifferent. But Mara knew that, for the first time, the silence of space had a voice, one she had to listen to carefully. One pulse at a time. And she would. Mara Lee could still feel her heartbeat in her chest as she stared at the console. The anomaly, whatever it was, had responded to her signals. The spikes in the sensor readings now moved in patterns that suggested intelligence, almost as if the entity was studying her as closely as she was studying it. But this time, the patterns were more deliberate than anything she had seen before. Orion's voice broke the silence. Mara, the entity is demonstrating adaptive behavior. I recommend a controlled approach for further interaction. Aggressive or sudden actions could provoke an unintended response. Mara took a deep breath. She knew that any sudden move might scare the anomaly, or worse. If this was sentient, as Orion suspected, it would not respond well to force. Instead, she needed patience, understanding, and creativity. Humans had a strange advantage in such situations. The ability to think outside rules and calculations. She activated her suit again and floated toward sectors 12 through 16. The outer hatch opened with a familiar hiss, and Mara moved slowly along the hull, her hands gliding over metal panels, her lights pulsing gently in the rhythm she had developed. The anomaly responded immediately, the sensor spikes mirroring her signals with precision. It's waiting for something, Mara whispered. It's not hostile, but it's cautious, like it's deciding if it can trust me. Orion analyzed the readings. Correct. There is no aggressive pattern detected. Probability of peaceful interaction is high, but uncertain. Mara's mind raced. Trust. Could an entity with no visible form even feel trust? Or was it something else? A recognition of intelligence. She decided to push carefully, continuing her communication patterns, experimenting with light, sound, and electromagnetic pulses in subtle combinations. Hours passed as Mara floated along the hull, her body weightless, her mind focused entirely on the signals. The anomaly began to respond in ways she had not anticipated. Its pulses became more complex, more synchronized with hers. Occasionally, the spikes would form shapes on the sensor grid, almost like letters, or at least a code she could try to interpret. Mara's eyes widened. It's trying to talk to me, she whispered. I think it's trying to communicate. Orion's voice sounded almost like excitement. Observation confirmed. The anomaly is demonstrating rudimentary syntax. Mara, you may be establishing first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. Great. The realization sent a shiver down Mara's spine. Humans had always dreamed of first contact with alien life, but she had never imagined it would be invisible, intelligent, and completely unpredictable. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could it be dangerous? Could it be benevolent? And more importantly, how could she ensure the station and the crew remained safe? Commander Rail's voice suddenly came through the comm link. Mara. Status report, he demanded, his tone sharper than usual. Mara hesitated. She wanted to explain, but words felt inadequate. It's intelligent, and it's responding to my signals. I think it's trying to communicate. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then Rael's voice returned, calm but cautious. Alive and intelligent? Are you certain? I'm certain, Mara said. I don't know what it wants yet, but it's not hostile. It's curious, and it's adapting to my attempts to reach it. Rael sighed. Mara, this is beyond anything we've trained for. Proceed carefully. Do not endanger the station. I trust your judgment, but understand, one mistake could have catastrophic consequences. I understand, sir, Mara replied, though a part of her wished he could feel what she was feeling. The excitement, the fear, the awe. This was more than a job now. This was history in the making. Back outside the hull, Mara continued her careful signals. She experimented with patterns, observing the anomaly's responses. The entity seemed to understand repetition, sequence, and timing. It mirrored her pulses, then added subtle variations of its own. Mara realized she was not just sending messages. She was having a conversation in a language entirely alien to humans. Suddenly, the spikes in the sensors surged dramatically. Mara froze. The anomaly had changed its pattern entirely. It was no longer just responding. It was initiating. The entity was attempting to communicate on its own terms. Orion analyzed the data. The entity is now demonstrating advanced problem-solving behavior. Mara, it may be testing you or your intentions. Mara's stomach twisted. Testing her? She floated in place, letting the pulses flow, carefully observing every response. The anomaly's signals grew more intricate, forming loops, waves, and spikes that seemed almost musical in nature. Mara realized it was curious about her, about humans. It was not just learning about the station. It was learning about her mind. Hours passed, and Mara's exhaustion grew. Her muscles ached from floating. Her eyes burned from staring at the pulsing lights. But she could not stop. She had a responsibility, and she could feel the stakes pressing down on her like the very gravity of the planet far below. Then, a breakthrough. One of the patterns formed a clear, repeating sequence. Mara recognized it as a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Her pulse quickened. Could it be a form of acknowledgement, a gesture of recognition? I think it's acknowledging me, Mara whispered to herself. It understands that I am a person, not just a threat, not just a machine. Orion responded quietly. Observation suggests high probability. Mara, the anomaly recognizes human presence and intelligence. The realization made Mara's chest swell with awe. Humanity had always been small in the vastness of space. But here she was, making the first connection with an entirely new form of life. Not through weapons, not through machines, but through human ingenuity, patience, and intuition. But the sense of wonder did not erase the danger. She had to proceed carefully. Any sudden change could frighten the anomaly or provoke an unpredictable response. Mara adjusted her signals, using the rhythm the entity had provided as a guide. Slowly, the pulses became a conversation, a dance of light and energy between human and entity. Suddenly, a new pattern emerged, a direct attempt to connect, to interact. The spikes in the sensors synchronized perfectly with her suit's lights. Mara realized that the entity was inviting her to learn from it, to share knowledge in ways humans had never experienced. Excitement surged through her. This was the moment she had been working for, the moment when first contact truly began. She responded, mirroring its rhythm, adding subtle variations, experimenting with the emerging pattern. The entity followed instantly, matching her adjustments perfectly. Back in the station, Commander Rael monitored her progress. Mara, what are you doing? He asked, a mix of concern and awe in his voice. I'm communicating, Mara said, her voice shaking with emotion. "I think it wants to learn about humans. And I want to learn about it." There was a pause. Then Rael spoke, quieter this time. "Very well. But be careful. Remember your responsibility. The station and everyone on it are still your priority." "I know, sir," Mara said, though a part of her wished he could feel what she felt. The thrill, the wonder, the fear. The anomaly continued to respond, more intricate and deliberate than ever before. Mara realized that she had to understand its patterns not just as signals, but as a form of language. Every pulse, every spike, every variation was meaningful. They were curious. The entity wanted to understand humans. It asked questions through patterns, probing her responses, testing her reactions. Mara answered as best she could, translating thoughts and emotions into rhythms, lights, and vibrations. It was exhausting, both physically and mentally. Yet, at the same time, it was exhilarating. Humans had always relied on machines, calculations, and raw technology to solve problems. But this was a test of humanity itself. Patience, creativity, empathy, and courage were her tools, and they worked. Hours stretched into the endless blackness of space. Mara floated, exchanging rhythms and pulses with the entity, building understanding, one small step at a time. And she realized something profound. Humans had a power that no AI, no machine, no algorithm could replace. The ability to think, feel, imagine, and connect even with something utterly alien was uniquely human. Finally, as the station's lights dimmed in preparation for the long night cycle, Mara felt a sense of achievement. The entity had responded positively to her signals, mirrored her patterns, and initiated contact on its own terms. First contact had been made not with fear, but with understanding. And yet, responsibility remained. The station, the crew, and the unknown entity itself depended on her judgment. She knew the next steps would be even harder. The anomaly was no longer just a mystery. It was an intelligent being. And now, she had to learn how to interact safely, ethically, and effectively. Mara whispered to herself, as if promising both the entity and herself, "I will understand you. I will protect the station. And together, we will find a way to communicate." The hum of Aegis 9 continued, steady and reassuring. The stars blinked in the distance, indifferent yet endless. And somewhere in the dark, invisible but alive, the entity pulsed a rhythm of curiosity, intelligence, and trust. Mara smiled. This was only the beginning. The night cycle on Aegis 9 stretched across the orbital station, casting long shadows and soft artificial darkness into the hallways. Mara Lee had not slept. Her mind was still racing from the interaction outside the hull. The anomaly, alive, intelligent, and invisible, had responded to her signals in ways she could barely comprehend. But one thing was clear. It was curious, and it had initiated a form of contact that no human had ever experienced before. Mara sat at her console, reviewing the data she had gathered over the past cycles. Patterns, pulses, and rhythms streamed across the holographic displays. Each spike in the readings felt like a heartbeat, each rhythm a form of language. She could almost hear it. The entity's curiosity flowing through the signals, asking questions about the station, about humans, and even about her. Orion, her AI assistant, broke the silence. "Mara, based on analysis, the anomaly exhibits advanced adaptive intelligence. It may be capable of understanding basic human concepts, though communication remains limited by our methods." Mara nodded. "I know, Orion. That's why we need a new approach. I need to show it who we are, not just what we are." She thought about Commander Rael's warning. Responsibility. The station depends on you. She understood that the crew's safety was paramount, but she also felt a sense of duty to the anomaly. Humans had always explored, always discovered, but rarely had they interacted ethically and meaningfully with life unlike themselves. And here, she had the chance to do it right. Mara suited up once again and floated toward the outer hull. She had prepared a new set of signals, an extended sequence of lights, pulses, and vibrations designed not just to elicit a response, but to communicate intent, curiosity, and peacefulness. This was more than observation. This was an introduction. As she moved along the hull, she felt the familiar tug of zero gravity, the soft hum of the station beneath her feet, and the infinite darkness surrounding her. But this time, she wasn't just searching, she was inviting. The anomaly responded immediately. The sensor spikes mirrored her new signals, this time more elaborate, almost musical in pattern. Mara realized that it was learning her language. Every pulse she sent, it mirrored, expanded, and transformed, creating a flowing dialogue between human and entity. Mara whispered to herself, awestruck. It's learning from me. It's trying to understand us. Orion confirmed. Observation indicates high likelihood of mutual comprehension developing. Mara, your approach is effective. Continue interaction carefully. Hours passed as the interaction intensified. Mara experimented with small variations in the signals, mimicking curiosity, friendliness, and even humor. She could sense the anomaly responding to emotion, reacting differently to different rhythms, learning not just patterns but intent. Suddenly, the anomaly did something unexpected. The spikes in the sensors aligned in a single, stable pattern, almost like a bridge connecting her signals with its own. Mara's heart leapt. This was more than mirroring. This was recognition. It was acknowledging her presence, her intelligence, and perhaps even her humanity. She floated in place, watching the flowing patterns. I think it's trying to communicate something specific. Orion, can you translate? Orion processed the data, its lights flickering as it worked. The patterns indicate intention and direction. While exact meaning is uncertain, the anomaly is demonstrating behavior consistent with guided interaction. It may be inviting you to observe its structure directly. Mara froze. Observe its structure? Could it be showing itself? Her mind raced. No one had ever claimed to see it. But the anomaly had responded to her signals in ways that suggested an emerging form. A presence she might perceive. She took a deep breath and carefully adjusted her signals, sending pulses that indicated willingness, curiosity, and non-threat. The anomaly responded by stabilizing its pattern around a small section of the hull. Slowly, very slowly, she began to notice a subtle shimmer, a distortion in space near the hull, a shape forming from energy itself. Mara gasped. It wasn't a solid being, not in the way humans understood life, but it had a visible presence now, a flowing, shifting form of light, energy, and patterns. The entity was alive, intelligent, and aware of her observation. This is incredible, she whispered. It's real. I can see it. Orion confirmed. Observation validated. The entity is visible within energy spectrum parameters outside normal human perception. It may be able to manipulate light and energy to be observed selectively. Mara floated closer, careful not to startle it. She mirrored its motions, mimicking the flowing patterns with her own signals. The entity pulsed brighter, shifting its shape in response, almost like a smile, or at least, something approaching one. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could humans learn from it? Could it understand humans fully? And most importantly, could it coexist peacefully with the station and the crew? She had to ensure safety while nurturing communication. Suddenly, a sharp spike appeared on her sensors. Mara tensed. Was this a warning? A reaction? The entity shifted, flowing around the hull in a protective manner, and the spike subsided. She realized that it wasn't aggressive, it was cautious. It was aware of the potential danger and was testing her. Mara took a deep breath. "I'm not here to harm you," she whispered, sending pulses of calm and peaceful intent. The anomaly responded, slowing its movements and stabilizing in one section of the hull. It seemed to understand. Hours passed as they continued this delicate dance of communication. Mara felt a bond forming not just between human and anomaly, but between human and the unknown. It was a reminder that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or weapons, but empathy, creativity, and courage. Back inside the station, Commander Rael monitored her progress. "Mara, I've never seen anything like this," he admitted quietly over the comlink. "You're communicating with it, and it's responding." "I know, sir," Mara said, her voice trembling with awe. "It's intelligent, curious, and I think it wants to understand us as much as we want to understand it." Rael's tone softened. "You're taking responsibility, Mara. You've shown that humans can do more than rely on machines. You've shown courage, patience, and ingenuity." Mara smiled faintly. "Thank you, sir. I just hope it will be enough." Orion interjected. "Observation. The entity is stabilizing its presence. Probability of safe coexistence is increasing. Mara, human-led interaction is succeeding where AI alone could not." Mara nodded. She felt relief, but also anticipation. There was still much to learn, much to explore. This was only the beginning. Humanity had reached a milestone. First contact with an entirely new form of life. One that defied all expectations. As the station's long night cycle continued, Mara floated near the anomaly, observing it closely. She realized something profound. The entity was not just a mystery to be solved. It was a partner in understanding, a new consciousness in the universe that humans had the privilege to encounter. "I promise you," she whispered to the anomaly, "I'll protect you, and I'll help you understand us. We'll find a way to coexist." The anomaly pulsed in response, the flowing patterns of light shimmering like affirmation. Mara felt a sense of connection, a fragile but undeniable bridge between humanity and the unknown. When she finally returned to the maintenance bay, exhausted but exhilarated, she knew that everything had changed. She had faced the invisible, the unknown, and the impossible, and had succeeded. She had taken responsibility, acted with courage, and demonstrated the uniquely human ability to understand, adapt, and communicate. Mara looked at Commander Rael as he entered the bay. "Report," he said. She smiled, a mixture of pride and relief. "Sir, it's alive, intelligent, and we've made contact. It's not hostile, and I think it wants to understand us." Rael nodded slowly, a rare smile touching his lips. "Then you've done more than your duty. You've done humanity proud." Mara felt a warmth she hadn't known in hours of fear and tension. The anomaly, the station, and the crew were all safe. And in the vast, silent darkness of space, humans had demonstrated something extraordinary. Courage, ingenuity, and empathy that could reach even the most alien of minds. For the first time, Mara realized what Commander Rael had meant about responsibility. It wasn't just about following orders or keeping systems running. Responsibility was about seeing the unseen, acting when others hesitated, and trusting human judgment even when the odds were impossible. And in that moment, looking out at the stars through the station's observation window, Mara felt hope. Hope that humanity could meet the unknown with courage. Hope that even in the darkest, most invisible corners of space, humans could connect, understand, and make a difference. The anomaly pulsed gently outside the hull, a silent rhythm in the dark, a reminder that the universe was vast, mysterious, and full of possibilities. And Mara knew that humans, with their curiosity, empathy, and courage, were ready to face it all. She whispered to herself, almost as if making a vow, "We will learn, we will understand, and we will thrive no matter what is out there." The hum of Aegis 9 continued, steady and reassuring. The stars blinked in the distance, infinite and eternal. And somewhere beyond sight, a new life pulsed in recognition, trust, and curiosity, because humans had reached for the unknown and refused to turn away. Mara Lee smiled, knowing this was only the beginning of humanity's true adventure among the stars.